ever feel like you're stuck, just like in a loop, repeating the same negative patterns even when you know better?
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to try to figure out how to break free.
Okay.
We're going deep on this one with a fascinating YouTube video by Hans Wilhelm,
Oh, cool.
who really digs deep into the spiritual roots of addiction.
Oh.
And he has some interesting, even surprising things to say about cravings we all struggle with.
I'm intrigued.
So those things that we just can't seem to kick, even though we know we should?
Yeah, we've all got them.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay, so where do we start with this deep dive?
Well, Wilhelm, he suggests that addictions, they actually come from a sense of separation from something bigger than ourselves. He calls it God or love.
Okay.
And when we feel that disconnect, we tend to try and seek that energy elsewhere.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Often through unhealthy habits or substances.
Like we're trying to fill a void, but we're looking in the wrong places.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
But what I find really interesting is Wilhelm's idea that there are actually forces out there, almost like they're exploiting our vulnerability and pushing us even further down that, that rabbit hole.
That's kind of a powerful image, isn't it?
Yeah.
And while the idea of like negative entities might seem a little bit out there,
Yeah.
it can also be interpreted in a way that resonates with modern psychology, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about all those negative thoughts, those self-sabotaging beliefs we all have.
Yeah, we all have those.
That inner critic,
Oh, yeah.
it could be just as powerful as any external force.
Right. So it's like whether we're talking about those spiritual forces or just our own negative thought patterns, the root cause is that feeling of disconnection.
Right, exactly.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Yeah, how do we get back to that source of love and break free from these patterns?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
Well, Wilhelm suggests a pretty radical solution. A 180-degree turn back toward love.
Okay.
Like imagine turning a giant ship around. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a real willingness to change direction.
Right. So it's more than just, willpower, right?
Yeah, it's about shifting our focus from those external sources of satisfaction to that inner wellspring,
Okay, I'm starting to see how this ties into the idea of personal transformation.
Right.
But I'm curious, what does that actually look like in practice?
Right.
What are the concrete steps that are actually involved in making that 180-degree turn?
Well, Wilhelm outlines a 5-step process that, honestly, you might find surprisingly relatable.
Okay.
The first step is acknowledging that we need help.
Okay.
And being open to receiving that help from a power greater than ourselves.
Okay, so something outside of us.
Yeah. Have you ever felt that way?
Absolutely. We all have those moments
Right.
where you realize, okay, I need a little extra support here.
Exactly.
But I'm curious about this idea of surrender.
Yeah.
Surrendering to a higher power. It sounds a bit intimidating, if I'm being honest.
I understand why you'd feel that way. But surrender in this context, it isn't about giving up
Okay.
or becoming powerless. It's more about recognizing we don't have all the answers.
Right.
And trusting that there's a force greater than ourselves that can guide and support us,
So it's like letting go of that need to control everything and having faith
That's
that
it.
we're not alone on this journey.
That's it.
What I find fascinating is Wilhelm connects this concept of surrender to 12-step programs. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so 12-step programs, they're commonly used for addiction recovery, right?
Right.
They have a similar emphasis on surrendering to a higher power.
Okay.
They also highlight the importance of community support and personal accountability,
You're not doing it alone.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together and we need each other to really heal and grow.
And speaking of community and those shared experiences, Wilhelm mentions Russell Brand's book Recovery
Oh, yeah? Good.
as an example of how these principles can be applied in real life.
Powerful book.
I've heard great things about that book, yeah.
It's a good one.
It's a great example of how these concepts can be incredibly practical and applicable to everyday life.
For sure.
So we've talked about the root of addiction. We've talked about that 180-degree turn back towards love and that concept of surrender. But I'm curious to know, what are some of the benefits of making this shift?
Yeah.
What can we expect if we actually embark on this journey of transformation?
Right.
What's on the other side of that 180?
Exactly. Well, Wilhelm says the benefits are pretty profound.
Okay.
Like multifaceted.
Okay.
He talks about experiencing greater peace
Okay.
and harmony,
Yeah.
feeling better about yourself and others, and even softening future hardships.
Okay, so like how would that work, the softening future hardships?
So think about it. Wouldn't it be amazing to approach those challenges in life with more resilience,
Yeah, of course.
more grace?
Yeah, I guess, but some of these concepts, they feel a bit abstract to me.
Okay, I get that.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Absolutely.
Like, how might these benefits show up in our daily lives?
Okay, let's take that idea you mentioned, the softening future hardships.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes it just feels like life throws you one curveball after another?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Wilhelm suggests as we align ourselves with love,
Okay.
we become less reactive
Mm.
and more responsive to those
Right.
challenges.
So the hardships, they don't go away.
Right.
So we just handle them better.
Yeah, our ability to cope with them, it just transforms.
Okay, so it's not about avoiding those ups and downs,
Right.
but just changing how we navigate them.
It's like that.
We're building up that inner strength
Mm.
so we can handle what comes our way.
Yeah, and that inner strength, it can spill over into our relationships.
Okay.
Wilhelm talks about how feeling better about ourselves can actually lead to more harmonious connections with others. Think about a time when you felt really good about yourself.
Okay.
Didn't it make it easier to be kind and compassionate towards others?
Yeah, that's true. It's like when we're filled with love and acceptance, we radiate that outwards.
Exactly.
But Wilhelm also mentions this concept of eliminating karma.
Yeah,
And that one's a bit of a head scratcher for me.
I get that.
Can you shed some light on that?
Of course. Now, karma can be a complex concept,
Yeah.
but it boils down to the idea that our actions have consequences. And Wilhelm suggests as we align ourselves with love and make amends for those past harms,
Okay.
we essentially clear out that negative karma. It doesn't mean we just escape the consequences of our actions, but it's more that we're creating a more positive trajectory moving forward.
So it's like we're cleaning up our energetic slate
That's a great way to put it.
and creating space for positive experiences.
Exactly.
Okay, so this brings us back to Wilhelm's 5-step process.
Yeah,
He starts by encouraging us to acknowledge that we need help
right.
and be open to receiving it.
That's right, from a higher power.
So admitting we can't do it alone.
That's the first step.
Which can be humbling, but it's also liberating, I bet.
It is. It really is.
To finally let go of that need to control everything.
Yeah, once we've surrendered to something greater than ourselves,
Okay.
then we can begin to take inventory of our faults and
We're
our negative behaviors.
not beating ourselves up.
Right, exactly. It's honest self-reflection,
Okay.
just taking a clear-eyed look at those patterns.
So like the things that are holding us back.
Exactly.
Okay, and once we've identified those, then what?
We make a conscious decision to change.
Okay.
But Wilhelm emphasizes this decision needs to come from the heart, not just the head.
So you really got to mean it.
You really got to want it, yeah.
Not just trying to avoid the pain.
Yeah, got to be genuinely motivated.
So our intentions and actions got to be aligned.
That's it.
But what if we mess up, fall back into old patterns?
Well, it happens, This journey isn't about perfection.
Okay.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Okay, so you're allowed to fail
Exactly.
as long as you keep trying.
And that's where the fourth step comes in.
Okay.
Making amends for past harms.
Okay, so taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility for our actions and seeking forgiveness.
Forgiving ourselves, too.
Yes, from ourselves and from those we may have hurt.
So cleaning up the messes we've made.
Exactly.
So we can move on with a clean slate.
Precisely. And the final step in Wilhelm's process
Okay.
is to deepen our connection with that higher power
Okay.
through prayer
Okay.
and meditation.
That makes sense.
Now, this doesn't have to be like a religious practice. It's about creating space for stillness
Okay.
and reflection,
Okay.
allowing that loving energy to flow into our lives.
So nurturing that connection
Right.
with whatever we define as our higher power,
Right.
whether it's God, the universe, or just our own inner wisdom.
Exactly.
So we got to make time for the things that nourish our soul,
Right.
remind us of our true nature.
Beautifully put.
One of the things that struck me about Wilhelm's teachings was his emphasis on the interconnectedness of it all.
Yeah, that's powerful.
He suggests that when we help others selflessly,
Hmm.
we not only benefit them,
Of course.
but also ourselves.
It's true.
What do you think he means by that?
I think it points to the interconnectedness of everything,
Hmm.
When we help others without expecting anything in return,
Yeah.
we tap into this universal energy of love and compassion.
Okay.
And those actions, they create a ripple effect.
Mm.
They impact not only the people we help,
Okay.
but also ourselves.
So it's not just about our own individual transformation,
Right.
but about contributing to the well-being of others
Yeah.
and the world around us. Like, we're
Right.
all in this together.
We are.
And our choices can create a more loving and harmonious reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this brings us to a fascinating point that Wilhelm makes.
Okay.
He observes that the principles he's outlined are essentially the foundation of 12-step programs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which, as we discussed, are used for addiction recovery.
Right.
He sees a clear connection between his approach and those practical steps.
Okay, can you give us a quick overview of how 12-step programs work?
Sure. At their core, they provide a structured framework for overcoming addiction. They emphasize surrender to a higher power,
Okay.
community support, and personal accountability.
Okay.
Participants work through the steps with a sponsor
Okay.
or a mentor, sharing their experiences and supporting each other.
It's that sense of community that makes all the difference.
Right. Knowing you're not alone
Exactly.
can be so empowering.
This whole deep dive, it's been so eye-opening.
You're
We've
right.
uncovered the roots of addiction.
We
We've
have.
explored that power of the 180-degree turn towards love. And we've learned about that importance of surrender
Yes.
and selfless service.
It's all connected.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
is there anything in the source material that surprised you?
Let me think about that. One thing that stood out to me was Wilhelm's point about how true change, it requires more than just wanting to escape pain.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that.
You actually have to be willing to let go of those fleeting moments of satisfaction that those negative patterns, they kind of give you.
It's a subtle distinction,
It is.
but it's important.
Yeah, otherwise you're likely to find yourself drawn back into those old habits.
It's so true. It's like if you're trying to break free from sugar,
Yeah.
you can't just focus on avoiding that crash afterwards.
Right.
You got to be ready to let go of that initial sugar rush, too.
That's a great analogy, and it highlights why that whole surrender concept is so important. It's about recognizing that our willpower, our ego-driven efforts, they might not be enough on their own.
Yeah, we need something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Got to tap into that source of strength and wisdom beyond ourselves.
And that can be whatever resonates with you.
Absolutely.
God, love, universe, anything that represents a power greater than you.
Wilhelm emphasizes that power, it's always available, always there,
Just waiting for us.
ready to support us on that journey back to wholeness.
I love that it's a constant source of support.
It is.
What also struck me was his statement about selfless help.
Oh, yeah.
It's manifold because all of infinity consists of selfless service. What do you think he means by that?
I think it points to that interconnectedness, right?
Okay.
When we help others, we don't expect anything in return. We're tapping into this, universal energy of love and compassion.
And it comes back to us.
Exactly. And those actions, they create a ripple effect,
It do.
impacting not just those people we help.
Right, but ourselves, too.
It's a beautiful thing.
As we've talked about, that whole helping others idea, that's a cornerstone of 12-step programs, too.
For sure. Sponsors and mentors, they offer so much.
Yeah, it's that sense of community, shared experience that makes a world of difference.
It does, knowing you're not alone. So powerful.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
I agree.
Really uncovered the roots of addiction.
We have.
Explored that power of a 180-degree turn toward love. Learned about surrender, selfless service.
It's all connected.
Before we wrap up, what's one practical step we can take
Good question.
to really incorporate this into our life?
I think mindfulness, it's one of the most powerful and accessible tools we have.
Oh,
Just paying attention to our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors.
yeah, just notice them.
Exactly. So we can start to identify those patterns that aren't serving us anymore.
So like when we reach for external comfort,
Yeah, or validation, that extra glass of wine.
all that mindless scrolling.
Oh, yeah, or that judgment, of ourselves or others.
We've all done it.
We all have.
But once we're aware of it,
Yeah, we create that space for a more conscious choice.
it's not automatic anymore.
Exactly. We can pause, we can breathe, we can ask, what am I really seeking here?
What do I need?
Right. Is this action really aligned with who I want to be?
And then we can choose a better response.
Yeah, maybe reach out for support.
Maybe do something calming.
Right. Or just practice some self-compassion.
Yeah, those small steps
They add up.
lead to bigger changes.
They do. It's about taking responsibility.
For our choices, our actions.
Exactly. Shifting towards love, peace, and freedom.
This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights.
It's been a pleasure.
I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
What's one thing you'd love to be free from in your life? And what's one step you can take towards that this week?
That's a powerful question. And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
Right, we're all in this together.
There's a whole universe of support available to you.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
It's been great.
We'll see you next time.